That's unfortunate. I now got to post this link. I got to post. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear anything you said. In fairness,
That's all right.
so I think we should just do your whole part again.
You want to
I'll
just call an
edit.
audible and go back? All right.
Yeah. We'll just pick up where you left off. We'll edit and post. Sorry, everyone. We're new at this.
Okay. You ready?
Oh yeah.
In 3, 2, and 1. I should go. Okay.
What was that? That was the voice guy from Clarksburg for a
It
while.
was 3, 2, and 1.
It was.
All right. So last week we talked about data storage, and I cannot look at your face while I'm recording this.
Well, don't.
I just realized. Okay.
So bad.
I'm going to look at this screen.
Yeah, watch something else.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. So last week we talked about data storage and how to safely and effectively store data locally. That's very important. Obviously, you've got to store it locally before you can store it anywhere else. Specifically, last week we talked about the Drobo and the Drobo Mini, which is really just a RAID array. It just makes it very simple. And what's nice about the Drobo or any RAID array is that it protects you against a single or multiple hard drive failure. That's number one, obviously. Hard drives will fail, so you've got to consider that first. Local backup's great. However, it's really not safely backed up if there's only one copy of your data and it's local. So you have to store a second copy off-site somewhere. And obviously that's for if there's an act of God, if your data center catches fire, if there's a flood, even theft. A local backup doesn't save you from any of that. So there are several methods to get your data off-site. In the old days, and I hope people don't do this anymore, some companies do. I'm sorry. You would store a tape. You would store a magnetic tape. And the big companies had giant machines that held hundreds of tapes in a carousel, and it would query the serial number of the tape, and at the end of every day it would kick out the tapes that it wanted archived, and it would give you a report of tapes to bring back. And it was, oh my goodness, crazy to manage. I guess you could say it was effective, but it was slow and it was expensive, and today it's just not a viable option. But
there are still cases. Are there still cases for tape?
I don't think there are. I mean, can you think of any?
No, I mean, I just didn't know if there were still specific places where that would be, where it would be a valid choice.
I know it still happens. I know people still use it, but I don't know. I'm speaking clearly from speculation, but I don't think people buy those systems new anymore. I mean, it just doesn't, the cost effectiveness, it's just not there.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Cloud storage and other forms of offsite data storage are so cheap now. They're so cheap and easy to use. I'll concede, 10 years ago, internet bandwidth was not what it was today. And the cost of quote unquote cloud storage was astronomical, if you could even get a hold of it, if you could even find it.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those things have changed dramatically over the years. So, boy, lost my train of thought.
We had a guy, we had a consultant once. Actually, it's in the last couple of years. The truth is, who recommended for a specific application for us a tape backup solution, if you recall.
I remember.
And it's true, and we acquired.
It's true.
We acquired said backup system.
But let me talk about that for a moment.
Sure. Not too specifically, though, right?
No. Exactly what I was saying earlier about cost effectiveness. That backup device, which held a single tape, one tape, if I recall, the enclosure was like $1,800.
Yeah, it was not cheap.
The tapes are several $100. Well, I shouldn't say that. The tapes can be several $100. They wear out eventually. They have a long life, but eventually they wear out and they need to be replaced.
Well, we got rid of it was the point I was trying to make. It didn't work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Spent months trying to make it work, couldn't make it work, and then ended up doing what we suggested in the first place, which was just backing up across our fiber to our other building and calling that good.
And I'm sure it would have worked. I don't know why it didn't work, but I didn't work on it. But it doesn't make any sense. It requires so much user intervention. That's the other part of backup. You want it to be as automated as possible. Take out the human element. We're all going to forget. When I started in the IT world, we used tape backup. And I cannot tell you how many times we forgot to pick up the tapes from our offsite facility. We picked up the wrong tapes from our offsite facility. It just doesn't make sense. So enter cloud storage, change the world. There's so many different services out there that essentially do the same thing, but we're going to talk about one specifically that we have used both in the corporate environment and personally. It's called CrashPlan. There are other services out there like this. Backblaze is one of them. Also very good. I kind of settled on CrashPlan for its cost and its feature set, just how it worked. It's very, very simple. CrashPlan utilizes something called incremental backups, and that is hugely important. That's how you got to do it. Incremental backups means it backs up your data set in its entirety across your internet connection to the cloud, and that can take a while. Understand that up front. If you have, hundreds of gigabytes or terabytes of data, it's going to take a while to get to their servers. But once that initial backup is done, the CrashPlan client then monitors your data for changes, just changes. When it detects a change, it updates that edited file. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do a full backup. That's huge, obviously. Saves a ton of backup and a ton of time. A ton of bandwidth and a ton of time. The other thing that's amazing about CrashPlan, and other services do this as well, let me reiterate, CrashPlan offers revision history. What is that? Okay, so let's say...
what is that, Alex?
Well, let me tell you, Chris. Revision history means if a file gets backed up, let's say you've got a Word document that has been backed up, and then you make a change to that document. Well, it's going to back up that change using incremental backups. It's going to back up that new document. But the old version of that document remains. It's still accessible. What you want to look for in a backup service is unlimited revision history. Obviously, I'm sure you already know the benefits of that. Any one of those edited Word documents going back to the very beginning can be
Please tell me more.
Any one of those edited documents can be re-downloaded to replace nope. Let me do that again. Any one of those edited documents can be re-downloaded in the event that you have a corrupted file locally, or you've made a change that you didn't mean to change, and it's saved that way. The huge benefit of revision history, and I'm going to say the word, and it's going to strike fear in hearts: ransomware.
No.
Ransomware. It is a real thing. We have felt it. We have tasted it. It's awful. Everyone knows what ransomware is. If you've been living under a rock and don't know, ransomware is kind of the newest iteration of malware, where you get a virus on your computer, and normally it sits dormant for weeks or months. You don't even know that it's there. One day you come to your computer, you turn it on, and there is a message on your screen with a countdown timer that says all your files are encrypted, and if you want the key to decrypt them, you have to pay us 1,000 Bitcoins or 500 Bitcoins or whatever the case may be. So this is malicious software that encrypts your files, and then you have to send money. Don't send money. You then have to send money to a group of hackers to hopefully get back a key that decrypts your software or your files. I'm sorry.
WVU sent money, didn't they?
No, they did not.
They did not.
They did not. There was a hospital. I don't
That's
remember
right.
what it was.
It was around the same time as WVU's big thing.
Around the same time. Yeah, it was kind of the first hospital you'd heard of that got hit with ransomware, but they did pay the ransom and fortunately did get a key. Here's the problem. This is kind of a side topic, but the problem with this is, number one, you're dealing with criminals anyway. So if you pay them, there's no guarantee they're going to give you the key.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they are going to give you the key, the FBI and other government agencies are shutting these people down so quickly that by the time you're able to pay them, they might not even exist anymore.
Right.
So
right.
the servers to generate the key might not even exist. So rather than deal with the ramifications of malware, have a backup strategy so you don't have to worry about it. And that's what CrashPlan can give you. When you have revision history, I should say we've been hit with this. We've been hit with this several times. And thank God we were using CrashPlan.
Mm-hmm.
If we weren't, I think we would still be putting the pieces back together. We can simply go back to CrashPlan and say, re-download all the files from this date. And it downloads them. We get rid of all the encrypted junk. And we're right back to where we started, right before the files were encrypted. I mean, next to no downtime.
That's very cool.
Oh, it's been huge for us. We had we had a ransomware attack that hit a very scary file server. It happens to house all of our financial data, payroll data, you name it, and it got encrypted. Had we not had a backup strategy, had we not had an offsite revision history backup, I don't know where we would be today. It would have been a bad night.
Yep.
But we have it, and it's beautiful. I've used revision history personally. I also use CrashPlan at home. I have a very large. I used to use Aperture until Apple got rid of it. Oh, Apple! I tell you what. I'll talk about that another day. Anyway, I used to have an Aperture photo library. It was like 60 or 70 gigs, and I opened it one day, and it was corrupt, completely bunk, totally corrupt. Thankfully, it was backed up to CrashPlan. The corrupt file had already been backed up, but I could go back to an earlier version, re-download it. It took about a day, but I got the file back and was right where I left off. So that's huge. The other benefit of CrashPlan, a lot of people will hear this and say, okay, that's great, but there's a cost involved, and I'm sure it's a lot. I got to be honest, I don't know how CrashPlan offers this at such a low price, but they do. If you want to use CrashPlan personally on your laptop, on your desktop, whatever it may be, it's $5 a month. $5 a month for unlimited backup. There is absolutely no storage limit. I don't know for sure if the personal version of CrashPlan gives you unlimited revision history. I know it gives you revision history. I don't know if it's unlimited. I'll have to look that up. But if you want to kick up to the enterprise version, maybe you want to use this in your radio station. And let's say you've got 5 computers that you want to back up, or 5 servers, whatever it may be. It's $10 a month per computer with a minimum of 5 computers. So $50 a month for unlimited backup, unlimited revision history. Couldn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
It's great.
So obviously, in addition to CrashPlan, which that's the one I've selected, I use at home also, and in our video production company at home, we use that as well. But there are a lot of others, like you had mentioned, that do it. Barracuda has one. Box.com is one.
Yep.
Let's see who else. Carbonite is a big one you hear a lot about. You can Dropbox. I mean, but they all have their own plans, obviously, that are different. Google Drive, Trend
You can
Micro has
do
one. iCloud is another option, right?
absolutely. You can do backups with revision history yourself. If you felt so inclined to do it, you could do it yourself, and you could do it for free using a free Dropbox account or a free Box account, whatever, or Google Drive. The problem with that is there's a human element, obviously. You have to remember to back up those files.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big proponent. If you can automate it, even if you have to pay a few dollars a month, if you can automate it and not think about it, I think that greatly improves your backup strategy. Anytime you can take the human element out, that's huge. So a lot of people, when I talk to people about backup, they'll say, well, I use a Mac, so I use Time Machine. So I'm fine. I've got revision history and all that. That's absolutely true. Time Machine works a little differently. I'm not going to get into it on this episode. It's complicated, but the other big problem with Time Machine is that's still a local backup. It's on a hard drive sitting beside your computer. So in the event of a flood, you're lost. Too bad.
Yep.
So it's my suggestion, especially at the corporate level. If you've got critical files at your station, such as financial data or advertisers' information, things like that, spend a few bucks a month, get that stuff in the cloud. It's got strong AES encryption. You don't have to worry about people seeing your data. It's encrypted from the moment it leaves your computer, and completely secure. Very cheap, very effective. I would venture to say the files that we've recovered have probably paid for the cost we've paid for CrashPlan several times over. Several times. So give it a look. It's a really effective way to do it. Don't forget, though, while cloud storage is utterly important and offsite storage is very important, don't forget about your local backups. It's still important to protect yourself against hard drive failure and things of that nature. So your best strategy for backup is multiple copies. You can't have too many copies of your data.
So let's talk about what we should be backing up.
Yes,
for a
absolutely.
minute if we can, because I'm blowing off just because of time. The topic we have to reevaluate our format a little bit here as well. Yeah. We'll talk about that offline, but the three topic thing I don't think is going to work. We're going to need to cut that down and probably focus some more on one topic or two.
Yep.
But here's what I think is a good point. So let's talk about it. We didn't plan this, but what, as a radio group, what should we be backing up? Like, let me give you my thoughts, and then you can
absolutely
chime in. We don't back up our radio automation systems audio volumes, and by that I mean on our server in each market we have a RAID of some kind. In most markets we have a RAID of some kind that is our audio volume of all of the audio assets for that market. But then they're already kind of backed up on site in that they all of these audio files also live on the workstations, the local workstations that play them, right? So we kind of consider that
it's a poor man's version of offsite backup. Yeah,
it's offsite, and then it's like down the hall from the server room or whatever.
If the building exploded, there'd be a problem, but
we'd also have bigger problems.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So we don't back up the audio, but what we do back up, and Alex has done a really good job of like fishing through these things and figuring it out. But like, we back up our automation server config files, and in our case, based on the radio automation system that we use from Wide Orbit, that's all we need to recreate the whole thing. Should we need to recreate the whole thing? So we're backing up that database, and we're backing up our our Axia Pathfinder configurations in all of the markets, and we're backing up our Cisco switch and router configurations in the markets, and obviously our traffic systems database. What else are we backing up through the cloud with revision history? Oh, user documents.
Yeah, user data is a big one. we've kind of maybe this is a way of cheating CrashPlan a little bit. I don't think it is. What we've done, and we have the benefit of a fairly robust site-to-site network. All of our various buildings and all of our various sites around the state and other states, I suppose, are connected via a fairly robust MPLS network. So we have good bandwidth between our sites. What I do, we have a data center located in one of our cities that I have a very large Drobo array in, and I use a cool little client. The company's been using it before I even got there. It's called Karen's Replicator. It allows you to choose a file set, tell it where to send it, tell it when to send it there, all the parameters, follow file deletions and all that kind of stuff. That's a little free utility. You can Google it, Karen's Replicator. I think it's Karen's Power Tools is the name of the company that makes it.
I wonder who Karen is.
I don't know, but man, she has been backing up data like a mad woman. God bless Karen. So I use that software to push from all of our various locations to the Drobo in our data center. And then I have a file server in that data center that backs up to CrashPlan. So that's kind of a simple way to get around the, multiple or paying for each server to CrashPlan. All of our data goes to one central location on a RAID array, and then that RAID is backed up.
Well, that in essence is two backups in one. I mean, you've got the backup to the data center and then the cloud backup that happens after that.
Yep. And the way I see that is you've got an offsite backup to your data center, yes, but then let's get it off of our network entirely. So, in the event of a major virus outbreak, let's get it away from our network, make another copy. Like I said, you can't have too many.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Preach it, brother Alex. It's good stuff. So we like CrashPlan, so we'll put a link there also in these notes to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, though, do your homework. Backblaze, Carbonite. What's the other big one you always hear advertised?
I can just keep hearing Kim Commando talking about terrible. Carbonite.
Carbonite, yeah. I listen to Leo Laporte talk about Carbonite every week. There's lots of them. Do your homework. Take a look at CrashPlan. It's cheap and very effective, but there are others that might have features that you prefer. So check it out. We will absolutely put links up and try to answer some of those questions for you.
Excellent. All right, very good. Like I said, we're going to push off the discussion here on IP audio infrastructure because I
don't know why. We could do that in a few moments, couldn't we?
Sure, we could. I think we have some work to do on that front this coming week anyway at the office with our extension. We have a project we should really document and share with everybody that's related to IP audio across a piece of dark fiber that we have leased. And we're running a studio at another building that is going to be amazing when it's done. In fact, we'll do a show from there. We'll do a show from that new studio when it's complete, a podcast from there.
I'm not sure that what we're doing is completely supported by our IP audio manufacturer.
We'll talk about, we should probably have a conversation with some people there because I want to recommend, part of my notes for that episode had to do with recommending VLAN tagging.
Yep.
And combining your audio IP network with your business network. And there are a lot of reasons to do that. If it's not completely kosher with them right now, it's going to have to get that way.
Yeah.
Because the reality is,
I mean, as we started this, they were absolutely willing to talk to us about it and tell us, here are the caveats, here are the things you need to think about. And
we haven't broken it yet.
No, by the grace of God, it's working.
So it obviously is somewhat, it'll work. So anyway, we'll push that topic off, but I want to try to document some stuff this week while we're working on, we got to build up a new switch for it. I think we're going to delve in kind of to the topology of how we deploy. We've kind of created this template as we've deployed IP audio in other markets and build them out. that we think, which we're biased, but we think is extremely effective and maybe the most efficient way, just in terms of IP address schemes and how we're VLANing our networks. There's just a lot of cool stuff that we can get into there. We're also starting to line up some guests. I don't want to name anybody yet, but we think it's going to be really great in this show. We're trying to put this out there in a way that, like, we're not the ultimate experts on all of these things. We wanted to do this show because we wanted to talk about the stuff that we love to do at work, and this is just a couple of guys that do this. They're in the trenches doing this, talking about the things that we're doing, and hopefully somewhere along the line it's going to help somebody else who's doing the same things.
We like talking about it, and we like, one thing that Chris and I are, maybe this is good or bad, I'm not sure. We love to experiment with how we get the job done, and it's not always the way the manual tells you to do it. And we've gotten burned by that more times than I can count, but we've also discovered some really cool ways to get things done.
Yep.
And basically we want to share that with you and then get input from you all. You can absolutely email us and say, you guys are insane and here's why. Mm-hmm. We want to hear that. We want to have the discussion. So please get in touch with us, and we will talk more about this.
Speaking of things that have been discovered through the course of this podcast, I just looked at the label again and discovered that this Merlot is 13% alcohol by volume.
That is a very high alcohol Merlot.
I'm feeling the fact that is true. So next week is IP audio. Hey, here's a few things we need to tell you. Next week is IP audio. We're also, I'm not going to promise anything else because we're going to restructure how we do these things. So we'll talk. We'll talk between now and then and figure out what else we're going to talk about next.
On our third anniversary episode, we will change everything.
Well, it's a work in progress. But do get in touch with us, though. That's the one part that I really hope to see us develop along the way as this thing grows, and we'll get better at this. And we want to find ways for you to participate with us. And I think we've got some pretty cool stuff on the back end. We just haven't been able to use it yet. But do check us out on Twitter at Radio Tech Guys, and on Facebook, search for the Radio Tech Guys. And definitely check us out there and on our website as well at theradiotechguys.com. Because I think that's a huge part of making this thing something fun, is going to be the interaction.
And mark your calendars right now. Set a reminder. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 Eastern. Talk to us live.
Yep.
We might even talk to you.
It'll be a good time for sure. All right, that does it. That does it for episode 2 in the books of the Radio Tech Guys podcast. Thanks so much for joining us.
See you next week.